Hello friends, welcome to my first reading vlog for the Trans Rights Readathon. This is a readathon that happens from the 20th to the 27th of March, and it is currently the 19th. I'm starting a little early just because I work in the morning and I want to plan what I'm reading tomorrow because I will have the opportunity to listen to some audiobooks and potentially read a physical book while I am at work. My personal goal for the readathon is to get to 100 hours. I do work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday of the readathon, so for the days that I'm working, I'm still going to try to get to 10 hours every day of audiobooks and some physical reading as well. So for audiobooks for tomorrow, I need at least 10 hours planned out so that I have stuff to read. So I already know that the first book I'm going to be starting with is Finna by Nino Cipri, and that's because I randomized my list of books and this is the one that popped up at the beginning. And I know the first graphic novel that I'm going to be starting with is Nimona by N.D. Stevenson. And for the same reason, when I randomized it, these are the two books that were at the top. So this is only a 3-hour audiobook, so I'm going to choose 2 other books, and I figured I'd do that on camera. Very fun. I have this adorable little cup, mug, I don't know what to call it, that I got at a Ren fair, and inside I have little book covers of all of my audiobooks that I want to get to. So I'm going to pull 2 of these and then they will be what I'm going to be reading tomorrow. And hopefully that these are, big enough that you can actually see them. So the first one, oh fun. So this is Sir Callie and the Something and the Champions of Helston. So I'm going to be listening to this. I think it's like a 9-hour audiobook, so technically that's enough. But I always need like backups to my backups because I'm a very voracious DNFer. If I'm not enjoying a book, and at least enjoying it to the point where I'm hate reading it or something, but if I'm not getting enjoyment and fulfillment out of a book, then I just won't want to read it all, and then I get in a reading slump. So instead I just DNF what doesn't work for me. That stands for did not finish, or do not finish. So I'm gonna draw another one just in case either of these books don't work out for me. Plus I also like switching between books, so maybe I'll listen to the entirety of Finna because it's so short, but then when I'm reading Sir Callie, maybe I'll want something else to switch to. So I would want something probably adult here. And this is not adult, so I'm gonna go. I know I have a lot of adult on here, so let's try something else. Alright, this is adult. This is Waiting for the Flood by Alexis Hall, which is another pretty short one, so that one I should get through pretty quickly as well. So actually I think I'm going to draw one more. I know this is a lot, but I just want to have options, because if I don't have options, then my brain revolts and doesn't have a good time. Okay, and the last one that I drew is Phantom and Rook. So that way I have some different things to go from, but I will try to get to them in the order of first Finna, then Sir Callie, then Waiting for the Flood, and then Phantom and Rook, although I'll probably read a bunch of them simultaneously because that is just how I work. And then same things with the audiobooks. I also have my graphic novels in this little one that has a adorable little maple leaf on the tin, and I'm going to draw my next graphic novel just so that I have something to go on. Oh, I'm so excited. This is The Moth Keeper by Kay O'Neill. That reaction is because this is my #1 book that if I don't read anything else this readathon, I definitely want to read this one. So I'm actually genuinely incredibly excited about all of these. But that one, if I had to choose one book for the whole readathon that I want to read, and it's that one because I got it when it came out 2 weeks ago and I just have looked at it every day and I haven't read it for some reason, so I'm excited. Maybe I'll start it tomorrow, maybe I'll start it the next day. But that's it for tonight, and I will see you tomorrow afternoon, probably with a reading update. It's now officially the first day of the readathon. It is currently 3:30. I got back from work like half an hour ago, ate some food, and I'm very ready to update you on all the reading I've done because it has been a day. Initially I woke up at like 4 a.m. and couldn't fall back asleep. So eventually I got up, turned on my first book, which was Fina by Nino Cipri, and ended up spending some time cross-stitching in the morning, which was very nice. It was such a good way to spend my morning, although I am kind of tired since I've been up for 12 hours at this point. But let's talk about Fina. So this follows two people who just recently broke up, but they work at the same place, and so it's a day where they've both been called into work, and they both work at like an IKEA-esque store, and sci-fi happens, and there are like basically like wormholes, and a customer went through one, so they are put in charge of like going after the patron, like the customer, and like retrieving them. That's the word I want. So that's kind of like the kickoff to it, and I loved it. It's super short. It's less than 150 pages, and I simply inhaled it. I just adored it. The first like third, I was like, yeah, this is pretty good, like it's fun, and then like the 2/3 after that, like could not stop listening to it, completely obsessed. There's a sequel, and I'm definitely going to be reading it soon, and we're starting off the readathon with a 5-star, which is like I said, such a good start to the morning. And then next, I kind of have like a series of DNFs, but they're all for different reasons, so let's talk about it. So first off, I have Sir Callie and the Champions of Helston by Esme Symes-Smith, and this is like the first book in a new middle grade series. I think this came out a few months ago. The second book is coming out in a few months, I think, and it is following a non-binary main character who is 12 years old, so it's like firmly middle grade. And I got almost 2 hours into this for like me keeping track of like my hours. So this was 3 hours of an audiobook. I round to the nearest hour, essentially. So if it's like an hour and 35 minutes, I count it as 2 hours, and if it's an hour and 25 minutes, I count it as 1 hour. So that's like how I'm gonna say. So I got to an hour and 41 minutes, so I'm gonna say that I got 2 hours through this, which is 18%. So I did give it a good shot, but there were just some things that I didn't vibe with. First off, I just found Callie a tad bit annoying, which, like, to be fair, I was incredibly annoyed when I was 12, so I understand, but one just wasn't giving me joy, and like I said, I want to be enjoying the things that I'm reading. So that was one thing, but the thing specifically that just like incredibly irritated me, which let it be clear, I know this is a nitpick, and it probably wouldn't bother everyone nearly as much as it did me, but this character is supposed to be like really good with a sword and has been training with a sword for a couple of years, and even this like huge sword that's way too big for Callie they've been using, and the first time that we see them using it, they're hitting a tree with it, which is just so stupid. That's like the worst way you could train. You're gonna ruin your sword, you're gonna make it all dull, and you're gonna hurt the tree. Like, it's just like a double lose. Why would you ever do that? And for somebody who is supposed to be really good and smart, they're being really stupid and bad with a sword. And then they like stole the sword from someone, like borrowed it from their dad, and then when he like comes to Callie and sees that Callie is like swinging the sword at the tree, doesn't care. And I'm like, I would be like, this is Callie's dad's nice like war sword. Like, what the? It just didn't make any sense. And I feel like maybe this author and everybody who like proofread this book just doesn't know anything about swords, because that was like the first thing I was thinking. I was like, what are you doing? So, and it's not like I know that much about swords. Like, I barely know anything, but I know you don't hit a tree with a sword. And I brought the scenario up to Chris. I was like, what do you think happens when you hit a tree with a sword? And he was like, you would like mess up the tree and the sword. You'd make it all dull and like hurt the tree. And I was like, see, so it is stuff other people know. I was like, is this just me? Chris like got it instantly, so I don't know. But that like, I know I've been talking about this for way too long, but I'm like, it really bugged me and I just could not get past it. And then Callie's dad was doing something stupid as well, and I was just like, I do not have the emotional energy to put into this book right now. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad that it exists. Love seeing a non-binary character in a middle grade. Think it's awesome, but this just wasn't the one for me. I will say, if you do want to read this, it's basically like Alana from Tamara Pierce, but like for a new generation. That they are a girl and are supposed to do girl things, but don't want to, and instead want to do the boy things and sword fight and stuff. And so instead of like pretending to be a boy, instead they just say that they are neither, because they are non-binary, but they like very explicitly say that, and go to the Capitol to try to become a page. So it's like essentially Alana by Tamara Pierce. So if you want that for like a more modern age, I mean, I think it's worth trying to like pick up. Just, I'm too nitpicky to have let myself enjoy it. The next one I'm pretty sad about is Nimona by N.D. Stevenson. So I got 34 pages in, which is not far at all. I got to chapter 5. And the thing is it takes a lot for me to physically read a book. Like, I just love audiobooks so much. And if I'm going to be spending the time to physically read, which like strains my neck and hurts my eyes, and it's just like much more draining on me physically, and mentally as well, especially if it's like a colored comic that is very bright. It's just like very visually overwhelming and overstimulating to me. So it's like, if I'm going to take the time to read a graphic novel or any book, I just like really want to be enjoying the experience like to the max the whole time. And I know that's like asking a lot, and I think that if you're like just somebody who loves reading graphic novels and it's one of your favorite things to read and you haven't picked this up and you like fantasy and science fiction, I think it would be a fun thing for you to read, and I'm gonna pitch it to you. So essentially, I mean, these are the things that like didn't work for me, but maybe it will work for you. So it is actually like pretty bloody right off the bat. Like, the main character Nimona is like obsessed with killing people and kills like so many people in just the first few chapters. That is like ridiculous. They are a bloodthirsty gremlin. So maybe like if you enjoyed something like I Hate Fairyland, it's not as gory as I Hate Fairyland, but if you like that kind of like humor in your comics, I think that would be a good thing. And then also, it's like a sidekick. Nimona is becoming the sidekick to like a supervillain. So if you like something like that, where it's like the anti-heroes and stuff, and you think that sounds really fun, then I recommend. Which is something that I was like, maybe if this was like an audiobook, like not a graphic novel, but just like a typical book, maybe that this would work like a lot better for me, is what I was thinking. Which I know like goes against the point of it being a graphic novel. I understand that. But also I'm like super picky with my art too, and I'm just like not obsessed with the art in this. Like, I didn't dislike it, but it didn't like make me like feel like happy to be reading it. But if you see this and you think like, wow, that's really my thing, I would enjoy going through that. I would say definitely give it a try. And since I was thinking like maybe if this was a different story, I would enjoy it more. So I actually did grab the audiobook from my library. Sometimes they turn graphic novels into audiobooks, which I personally don't like. I just, I don't know. I don't think it works. So I tried picking that up because I was like, maybe an audiobook would work better, but I was really not enjoying the audiobook. I listened to the little bit that I had read physically, and I enjoyed the reading experience far more than the audiobook, I will say. So I'm gonna DNF it. I wish that it worked better for me. But like I said, I'm just like incredibly picky about what I'm going to spend my time reading, much more than I am about what I'll spend time listening to. I think maybe because the audiobooks are like passive, so even if I'm not like incredibly invested, I can still have it going on and still be engaging my like eyes and my hands with something else. But reading physically, I have to engage my eyes and my hands with them physically, and then my ears are left to wander, which means my brain wanders and stuff. So like I really need to be invested for it to feel worth it for me. But then in a different turn of events, this is like the next win since Fina, is The Moth Keeper by Kay O'Neill. I was able to get to page 56 of this, which is chapter 3, and I am absolutely just basking in the cute, cozy warmth of this book. I'm obsessed with the illustrations. I want this one to be my friend. I want all of these characters to be my friends. They're all like anthropomorphic animals, and they are all just so cute, and I'm just loving the art, and it's just making me feel so like cozy and warm. And I've only had like a few artists that like I see their work and I'm like, I want to live in your art, and this is one of them. Like, I want to live in this book. One of the other artists I'd say that is true for is Sarah Zunda, I believe it is. Love, love, love her art. So I would also love to live in her. Oh, which actually, that's really funny. This bookmark is that artist. I would like to live in their art as well. Oh, and there it is on the back. SarahZunda.com. So, her art is incredible. I would like to live in it. And same thing with Kay O'Neill's. Their art is incredible, and I'd like to live in it. So, I am only a little bit into it. I still have quite a bit to go. But I'm very excited to read it. I don't know if I'm going to read the rest of it tonight because since I've been awake for so long and I'm just feeling kind of foggy and just kind of worn out, I think I will take it to work with me and then see how I'm feeling tomorrow about reading it, or maybe I'll try to read some in the morning. But for tonight, my goal would just be to listen to a few more hours of an audiobook and just relax and try to get some of the editing done on this vlog so I don't get behind. Okay, I still have 2 things to talk about. Like I said, I've already read a lot today. So the next thing is Black on Both Sides, A Racial History of Trans Identity, and this is by C. Riley Snorton, and I am not intelligent enough to read this book. It's very academic, and I'm very shortly into it. Like, I've read a little bit more than half of the audiobook. I'm still on the introduction, which is still this bit, and there have been so many words that I do not even remotely know the meaning of or have ever heard before in my life, and I'm not listening to it that quickly. I was listening to it at like 1.5 speed. For context, I listened to this one at 1.7 speed. I listened to this one at like 2.15 speed because I wasn't enjoying it very much for like the 2 hours that I pushed through. I started at 1.7 and then I bumped it up. And usually if I'm bumping it up in order to be able to enjoy it, it means that I'm not enjoying it and I should just stop. And this one I slowed down to 1.5 speed, and I probably would need to slow it down even more. but I am just not academic enough for this. I think that maybe this is something I potentially could come back to in a few years, and I do think it's an incredibly important subject to think about, like that intersectionality, and I want to learn about this, but this book is not the way for me personally to do it right now. But if you are smarter than me, I would recommend giving it a try, and I think also probably it would be easier physically versus on audio, because there are a ton of like notes in the back. So there's almost 50 pages pure of like notes and like footnotes and stuff. So it's like very well researched, obviously, but I think I would need to read it physically, and like I said, like I'm not there right now, so unfortunately I'm putting that down, and I'm very sad about it, but I still have a few other nonfiction on my TBR for this week, so hopefully I can understand those. And then my final book that I'm going to talk about today is, I'm currently 3.5 hours through Phantom and Rook by Elena Isaacs, and I am having so much fun with this. It is like a cozy like fantasy world, and it's gonna be like a male romance, and it is just like, it's just, I'm so interested in all the characters and the world building of this world and all the different things that are going on, and it's like modern day, like they have cell phones and stuff, and I think it deals a lot with like mental health, which is going to be super like interesting. Like I can very much relate. One of the characters is an artist, and one of them is like a time traveling like immortal being, like so interesting, and it's not really like anything I've read before, and I am simply eating it up. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm very excited to read more. So that is everything I've read thus far. I don't think I'll be finishing Phantom and Brook today, or I might be able to finish it tomorrow, but I don't plan on finishing it today, but I plan on getting a few more hours through it. Technically, if we add everything up, this is 3 hours, 5. Between the two of these, I ended up reading for half an hour, which would be like $1, so that would be like 6. This would be 7, and then I've listened to like 3 hours of Phantom and Rook, which is 8, 9, 10. So technically I've met my goal for today, but getting a few more hours through would be good. But I think for now I'm probably gonna go like lay down, maybe take a nap, we'll see. But I do want to choose some more things, because I always need backups, because right now Phantom and Rook is the only one that I have going, and that simply is not acceptable. So I will say that I drew black on both sides this morning before I left. I just wanted to make sure that I had some options in case I went on a DNFing spree, which I did. I called it. And I also pulled another book, so I pulled 2 just in case, and I didn't end up filming them. So the other one that I ended up pulling was Under the Pendulum Sun, a novel of the Fae by Jeanette Ng. And I love this cover. This has been on my TBR for years, specifically because of this cover. It's just so strange. And it just makes me really, really happy. So I really hope the insides call to me as much as the outsides do. Probably not, but fingers crossed. So I'm going to pull 2 more, something, because I don't know. The thing is I like to split up what I'm reading as far as like genre or age group or something. So the fact that this is like an adult fantasy, as well as Phantom and Rook also being an adult fantasy, I think having something else in between would be good. Oh, and I also have Waiting for You still, which I can start. So I think I'm just going to draw 1 more. And the thing I drew was Fina, because I never pulled that out. So never mind, I already read that. So I'll just pull 1 more thing then, because I have Waiting for You. Oh, good. It's a nonfiction, but it is not about transness, it is about dinosaurs. The Last Days of the Dinosaurs, An Asteroid Extinction and the Beginning of Our World by Riley Black. Y'all know I'm always happy to read a book about dinosaurs, and it's been a while since I've read one, so I'm very excited. I have a grabby fingers towards this book. I cannot wait to read it. But I'm gonna choose one more graphic novel, or maybe two, we'll see how it goes. Because when I end up finishing The Moth Keeper, I'll want something else to fall back onto. And this one is super short, so I'm actually going to choose another one. But that one is Stage Dreams by Melanie Gilman, and this is super short. It is less than 100 pages long, so it will not take me long. And I'm really vibing with the art in this one. It's like this really cool, like, colored pencil, which I really like. I don't think I've ever read like a traditionally published graphic novel that has like this kind of art style, so very much here for it. So I'm super excited about that. And then I'm going to choose one more just because that is super short and won't take me any time at all to read. So finally, my other graphic novel is Be Gay, Do Comics, which I actually have to put back. I'll do it after I draw a different one because my local library has it on hold for me from a different library, but there was a snowstorm last week, so everything that I placed on hold last week is running behind, including that one. Oh, this one just flew out, so I'm going to do this one instead, which is Zatanna, and Be Gay, Do Comics is going back in. This, I feel like, was incredibly chaotic, I'm sorry. But Zatanna and the House of Secrets by Matthew Cody and Yoshi Tani. And Yoshi Tani is one of my favorite illustrators in the world, so I cannot wait to read this as well. This is what I'm talking about as far as, like, I just, like, want to be so excited about, like, the art and the story and the vibe to just, like, cannot wait to, like, pick it up and just, like, I just want that feeling. And unfortunately Nimona wasn't doing it for me, even though it's been on my, well, probably this is part of it, it's been on my TBR since 2016, and I think in the past maybe I could have enjoyed it more, but I feel like my spoons are low and I need to be choosy about what I read. Anyway, I will update either later tonight or tomorrow with more reading, but thanks for listening to this chaotic ramble. Hi friends, it is now 8:10 p.m. or 8:11, just turned, and I figured I'd do like a final update for tonight and update you on like the tally and how much money so far I will personally be donating to the Trans Youth Equality Foundation. So I read in its completion one more book since we last talked, and then I also started another book. So I've listened to the first hour of Under the Pendulum Sun by Jeanette Ng. So this is kind of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell-y. It follows this girl who is arriving on the shores of a new land that's like a fairy land, and her brother has been there as a missionary. Definitely like huge content warnings for like colonization and all of that fun stuff, where basically they've just been sending a lot of people trying to convert like the savage fae and stuff. And yeah, so definitely like be aware of that. And they also just like talk about a lot of like these explorers around that time period who are going around the world, you know, helping that colonization. So it is like not fun, but I am enjoying like the world, and it's like very like creepy, and I am really hoping that we get like a big like character transformation, fingers crossed. But it's also kind of like giving me vibes of just like, I don't know, I really like books that are set in like the mid 1800s that have like magic. Like it's sort of giving me like Sorcerer to the Crown vibes and Cho vibes, stuff like that. So yeah, I guess we'll see how it keeps going. I do love when a book has like the title within the book, so they've already explained that this fairy world has like a pendulum sun that just like swings back and forth. So now she is in fairyland and she's under the pendulum sun now. And there's already been like some weird stuff going on at the house, and I don't know. I'm not sold on it yet, but I am enjoying it. But also, it's very Christian thus far, and very like, we must redeem everyone with the love of Jesus, our Savior, and it's just a lot for me right now. But the book that I did read to completion, and my second 5-star of the readathon, and it's only day one, is Stage Dreams by Melanie Gilman. I told you that I wouldn't read anymore, and then I was just like looking at this right here after I stopped the recording, and I grabbed it and I read the whole thing. It only took me half an hour because it is so short, and just like there's not a lot of words on every page. So this is set in 1861. We follow this woman who is like a stagecoach robber, essentially, known as the Ghost Hawk, and she ends up like robbing this stagecoach and kidnapping our other main character, Grace, who's a trans woman, and they team up to try to mess with the Confederacy. And it was such a delight. Loved the illustrations. The amount of like joy and euphoria that I got from seeing our dear, beautiful, wonderful Grace and her 5 o'clock shadow. Oh, I was screaming, and I'm obsessed with like their relationship. Ugh. Okay, so I'm a sucker for all of that. But also, when I was reading it, I was like, I don't know a lot of the things that this is talking about. Like, I was reading a few pages, and I was like, I feel like I am missing, like, I'm not educated enough, like, on the time period of what was going on in 1861, specifically in New Mexico, which is where this takes place. And so in the back, there are different things correlating to different pages that just like gives an explanation of all this stuff, and even things that like I wouldn't have thought to like ask about. It like tells me, like, there's a whole page that is like incredibly digestible and interesting and nuanced, and just like all about like trans people during the Civil War and stuff. And like, I don't know, everything about this was just like a pure joy to read. Not a second dragged, and I loved all the informational bits. It's only 5 pages, but it made such a difference. I learned so much about what was going on in the Civil War in 1961 in New Mexico, and I didn't know that I would be that interested in it, but Melanie, you made me interested. And just like the queer joy that this brought me, like this euphoria, I'm on such a high from it. I loved this, and will be picking up anything Melanie Gilman writes, which is also very handy because I also have this on my TBR for the readathon, Other Ever Afters, and the art in here is all still that beautiful colored pencil illustrations, and I just cannot wait to read it. Look how dreamy and beautiful that is. Just, oh, so anyway, obsessed, highly recommend. I will be buying myself a copy if I can. I hope it's still in print. It better still be in print. And I'm also going to try to get my local children's bookstore to get a copy in if it's still in print. It came out in 2019, so that's a little dicey of whether or not we can still get it, but I loved it. So with all that sporadic reading that I've done, I am currently up to $12 that I'm going to be donating. So I've spent either 12 hours of audiobooks or half an hour of like a physical book. So I basically spent 2 hours. So it was like 10 hours of audiobooks and then like half an hour each. I hope that makes sense. To me it makes sense because that's how like I think about my reading. But if it doesn't, let me know and I'll try to do a better explanation. But also, I'm gonna wait to do a donation, I think, until the end of this vlog. And then when this vlog goes up, I think I'm gonna make like a donation for each vlog. I think that's a good way to do it. But we also already do have a donation for the readathon. Thank you so much, Kathleen. They donated $20 and I'm just over the moon. Thank you. I really appreciate it, and that was just like a lovely thing to get that notification. So altogether we're already at $32 raised for trans youth, which I'm so thrilled about. So there we are. That's my reading update for today, and tomorrow hopefully we get to another $12 and 12 hours. It's Tuesday night, day 2 of the readathon, and I'm doing an update. It's 9 p.m. and I'm gonna go to sleep soon. Today was the first day of my period, so I just felt very like drained and wrung out all day, and I'm sure the feeling will continue out through the week, so I pushed through and I didn't quite get to my goal. I listened to I guess 4 hours of one audiobook, 1 hour of another, so only 6 hours of that, but I did read for an hour physically, so that counts as like 2 half hours. So could have been worse, 8 hours instead of my 10 goal, and hopefully I can make up for it one of these other days. I am starting off with a DNF. I got 38% of the way into Under the Pendulum Sun by Jeanette Ng, and I am DNFing it. The reason I'm DNFing it is kind of a spoiler, so if you don't want to hear spoilers for this book, you can skip ahead like a little bit, but I was reading it and I was like, it's like about this sister and she's like trying to find her brother, and I was like, this is feeling a little like incesty, like the way that they're like, I don't know, the way that she's thinking about him and stuff. And just like the further and further I went, because at first I was like, maybe I'm just reading into this, maybe it's not incestuous, and the further I was like getting into it, I was like, okay, this is feeling really incesty. So I looked up Under the Pendulum Sun incest, and like a bajillion things popped up on the web search that yes, this is an incest book. So that was like my initial like okay, I guess I was right in that. And that's like basically at the 38% when I was just like, I just do not want to read a book about incest, you know, and I don't think it would be an all-time favorite, so I just don't care enough to finish it. And maybe this would end up being like a 3-star in the end, but I can't imagine it would get more than that, and I do not care enough to finish it. I will say though, I'll put spoiler on the screen because this is like actually a huge spoiler, because then I ended up like reading some people's like reviews where they talked about the incest. And essentially, I guess what happens is that that they are brother and sister, and then she gets told that she's actually like a changeling, and so they're not brother and sister. And so then she's like, okay, great, I can be with my brother. And then apparently it does like a double switch, and they actually are brother and sister, and she's not a changeling. So like it is incest, but then it wasn't incest, but then it actually is back to being incest. So now I'm like especially glad that that I didn't keep going with it, because I just feel like I would not have been enjoying the ride. I will say though, not spoilery at all, I would try reading other things by Jeanette Ng. I think maybe the writing would lend itself more for me personally to like a short story or a novella or something. I thought the writing was really interesting and descriptive, and it definitely made me like, I don't know, it was just like very beautiful, and what it was describing was super interesting, and I was really enjoying the writing. So I would want to try something else, but I just feel like this is too long and not enough was happening. So then if it was like in a short story or novella and you only were in it for that little bit, I just think it would lend itself gorgeously to that. So I'm gonna look out for other things by Jeanette Ng, but this one I just know won't be a favorite. So I'm gonna call my losses now and stop it at the 38% mark, but I did get 5 hours through it, so plus like the hour from yesterday and then the 4 hours today. But I did have another just like absolute win, which I ended up reading Zatanna and the House of Secrets by Matthew Cody and Yoshi Yoshitani, and Yoshi Yoshitani pulls through again, and I loved this. I just think that the art, I just freaking love the art so much. I really enjoy the words, but like this, just everything about the illustration, and they're not always like, the words aren't always like, there's always other things going on in the illustration that isn't in, like, doesn't have anything to do with the words. There's just like other things going on, and so every page was a delight because I'm following the story and I'm really enjoying the story, but then I'm stopping every single page to look at all the like fun details. And Yoshi is amazing. I really enjoyed the writing and I loved this. I gave it 5 stars and I want a sequel yesterday. Like, I don't think they're gonna do a sequel, but I would read it and buy it in a heartbeat. Loved this so much. Really recommend. Oh, and I guess I'll tell you what it's about. So basically, it's about Zatanna and her stage magician father, and they live in a special house, a house of secrets. So it's like a little bit of like a sort of, I don't want to say coming of age, I guess it is. Zatanna's only 12, but Zatanna is like struggling with like feeling like she has to change herself to fit in with her friends, and just, I don't know, dealing with like starting to like come into puberty a little bit, and then some weird stuff is going on with her dad, and so there's like a little bit of like a father-daughter like relationship thing as well. But like, I don't know, everything about it was a delight. I don't want to say too much because every second of it was just like so fun for me. Absolutely devoured it. I spent a little more than half an hour reading it, and I just like completely savored every second. I loved it so much, and I'm definitely gonna check out Matthew Cody other stuff as well, because I really liked how it was like composed. But Yoshi Yoshitani, I think I've read almost everything that Yoshi has written and traditionally published, and I'm very sad about it, but I'll 100% for sure be buying my own copy of this one. So 3 5-stars, and we're only on day 2 of the readathon, so I'm feeling really good about that. Another thing that I was reading today is The Moth Keeper. I'm still not done with it, but I'm getting a lot closer. I'm on chapter 7, which is on page 189. And again, I'm just enjoying every single page of this, just like looking at all the beautiful art, and I love the way that Kay O'Neill draws like bigger pictures with these tiny little people, but there's still all this detail, and it's just so cozy and comforting, and I just seriously loving every single second of this. And I'm not rushing through it because I just like want to enjoy it, but I'm definitely gonna try to finish this up tomorrow. I easily could have finished it today, but I'm so tired. So I didn't, but hopefully tomorrow, and will probably be another 5 stars. So super enjoyed this. And then the other thing that I was reading today is I've been listening to Waiting for the Flood by Alexis Hall. I'm currently halfway through this. I'm an hour and a half through. It's a 3-hour audiobook, so I would consider that as listening to like 1 hour because I haven't reached the 2-hour mark yet. And this book is so short, but it feels longer than it is. So it's only 3 hours, but it's just so like, it's very like slow and melancholic, and I feel like I've read more than I have. But I'm enjoying what I've read, so it's not in a bad way necessarily. It's just like I feel like a lot of times, like say with Fina that I just read yesterday, that every second just flew by and it was over before I knew it, and I loved it so much. This one I was like, how far am I through this? I'm only 20 minutes into this. Like, I feel like I've been listening to it for like 40 minutes. So that has been like an interesting experience. But basically we're following this, I don't know, I don't want to say too much because it's so short, but we're following our main character Edward, and he lives in a place that floods very easily. So the title comes into that, where it's like the whole book you're like waiting for like the flood to happen. And the flooding is happening throughout the book. That it's been raining a lot especially, and people's like basements flood and stuff, and that if people aren't like doing their part in the community, that a lot of people will be affected. And I don't know, it's very interesting. But basically we're following him. His like partner ended up leaving him, so he's dealing with this like grief. He also seems to have like a lot of social anxiety, and he also has a stutter, which I love so much. I've only read a few books before that a character has a stutter, and the fact that it's like the main character who has a stutter, I'm really enjoying it. I think it especially lends well to being an audiobook, because then you can like hear the stutter, and I'm incredibly enjoying it. I think that's another thing that also makes the book feel a little bit slower because of that. But then there's other characters in it who are just like very respectful and like waits for the character to like take their time, and then I don't know, and like get out their thoughts and stuff. And so like I think that's slowing down the pace, but I am really liking it. But it's not really like any romance that I've read before, and I have read a lot of romance, so it's quite refreshing, and I'm really excited to see where the second half goes. I am listening to it at like 1.65 speed, so I'm not listening to it too fast, which may also be why it's feeling slower. So there's that as part of the equation as well. I am still listening to Phantom and Rook. I am tired and I did not feel like reading it today, so I didn't. But this is a very usual thing. Oftentimes I'll read part of an audiobook, I won't listen to it the next day, and then I'll read a lot more like the day after that. Sometimes I just like take a break from it. It is not anything having to do with the book. Still really enjoying the book, I just didn't feel like reading it today, so I didn't. I will say though, I have my graphic novel jar here, so since I'm about to finish The Moth Keeper, and since I already finished Zatanna, I'm going to pull 2 of these, just so I have a backup and then a backup to my backup. So the first one, oh, I'm so excited, Other Ever Afters, which I actually have sitting right here because I was talking about it yesterday, because it is by Melanie Gilman, and it's New Queer Fairy Tales. I'm so excited. I just loved Stage Dreams so much. Oh my gosh. I just saw that Melanie Gilman's author photo is a frog in like courtly attire. Melanie Gilman, you are my hero. I love you so much. Cannot wait to absolutely devour that. Okay, and then my backup to my backup. I'm gonna like dump these out and then slip them back in. Let's do this one. Oh, I'm so excited. This one is Cheer Up. So here is Cheer Up. It's by Crystal Fraser, and then the art is by Val Weiss, and it is lettered by Oscar O. Juniper. This is like a queer cheerleading, like sapphic romance with a trans main character, which is freaking amazing. So excited to read that. I bought it like probably a year ago, so it's about freaking time that I've read it. I also forgot to mention yesterday when I was raving about stage dreams, but I am obsessed with Flora's nose. It is just so beautiful. I think noses like that are like exquisite, and I love them so much. And I forgot to mention that was just such a nice, I love noses like that. Getting to look at them, they're so beautiful, and it's another thing that I just freaking loved about this. I just don't read graphic novels that often. I don't read physically that often, so I find all these books that I really, really want to read, and I'm very excited about reading, and then I just can't do it like physically, and I'm just like not in the headspace to do it. And thankfully this week I am, but it means that I'm reading all these books that I'm like so obsessed with, and then they're all turning out to be amazing. So that's great, but also I'm like, oh, I should have just like read them when I like originally like put them on my TBR instead of waiting years and years because I didn't feel up to it. So it's like it's sad, but also I'm very glad that I'm reading them all now and I'm finding all these like new favorite graphic novels. Okay, so I am still currently reading Phantom and Rook, Waiting for the Flood. So those are my two main books, and then Last Days of the Dinosaurs I haven't started yet, but we'll probably start tomorrow. I just didn't think my brain could handle nonfiction today, but since that's only 3 books, I'm gonna pull one more in case something goes awry, or Waiting for the Flood is actually super short, so I think I might actually pull 2 more just so I have like 4 books, since I'll finish one, and then one's fiction, nonfiction, one's like fantasy, one is like dinosaur nonfiction. Having something else to read would be good. And the thing I pulled is Upright Women Wanted by Sarah Gailey. I'm glad I pulled this now because I have 2 books by Sarah Gailey on my TBR for this week, and I don't want to read them back to back, so I'm glad I'm getting this out of the way like on Wednesday, and then hopefully like on Saturday or so is when I'll pick up the other one. And then we're going to draw one more from my perfect, amazing, adorable mushroom cup, mug, something. Oh, I'm so excited, I dropped it. This is In Deeper Waters. In Deeper Waters by F.T. Lukens. I have been wanting to read this since like the second I saw the cover because it is just so dreamy. There is a TikToker who I have recently found, and they have recommended this book, which is why I'm thinking of it, but also they had it just like in a big stack of books, which she called it has like a pink or purple cover and it looks kind of gay, and they had like this ginormous stack of books, and that just made me laugh. So that was something I thought of, and she's also participating in the trans rights readathon. I'll put her tag up here, but it's Metaphorically MJ, and I've been super enjoying their book recs, and they really, really love this one, and it has a beautiful pink purple cover, and it looks pretty gay. The refrigerator is yelling, so that's it for tonight. It's Wednesday night, and my final update for this reading vlog for the Trans Rights Readathon. I will have 1 or 2 more vlogs after this, hopefully 2, so stay tuned for those. But this has already been such a fantastic few reading days. I've found so many new favorite books, and I'm just so happy. I haven't had like the best reading year thus far, and so this week has just been such a delight in that way. It's also sad because there's a lot of just like horrible things going on in the country, and today, although I felt better physically, emotionally, I was just like reading a lot of news stuff and was feeling a bit discouraged. So this is like a good thing that I'm clinging on to, is like supporting these wonderful authors and it's been helping to perk up my mood. So with that being said, I'm gonna link a few like things in the description. So Erin in the Morning, and I also found an Instagram account. It's called So Informed, and it says breaking down politics and social issues, and it's like a pretty digestible way to get some news about stuff. And I just discovered that a couple days ago, and I feel like it's gonna be an invaluable resource for me, so I'll leave both of those linked down below, and I recommend checking them out to stay up to date on stuff. But also, take time for your mental health is another important thing, because you can't help with the fight unless you are like mentally in a space to do so, that you need to recharge and rest. And then while you're fighting, somebody else can be recharging and resting. So like, don't totally burn yourself out, because then you're just being cruel to yourself and you're not going to be helping the resistance. So with all that being said, now let's talk about what I've read. So I finished 3 things since I talked to you. So the first thing is Waiting for the Flood by Alexis Hall. I ended up finishing this last night. It was only 3 hours on audio, and I ended up really liking it. I'm going to give it 4 stars. It was, like I said, it just felt, I don't know, it was just very slow and a little melancholic, and the writing was simply beautiful, and I really enjoyed being in the main character's head, and I super enjoyed it. And I've heard really good things about the next one in the series. I believe it's called For Real, and I'm incredibly excited to read that. But I'm for sure going to continue to read a bunch of Alexis Hall books, because so far the 2 that I've read by him are both 4 stars, I believe, so he's doing well. The next book I finished is The Moth Keeper by Kay O'Neill. I was finally able to finish this up at work today, and I really enjoyed it. I've already raved about the beautiful art and just like how comforting and soft and cozy this is, and I totally recommend it. Everything by Kay O'Neill that I've ever read has gotten like 4 or 5 stars, and this one I'm going to rate 4.5 stars. Really enjoyed it, and it's definitely one I can see myself rereading in the future, and it potentially maybe becoming a 5-star for me someday with like repetition and love. But like on initial, and this is me being nitpicky, this is like, I feel like almost mean saying this, but it was like too long. And the reason I feel mean is because like every single page was so gorgeous and I loved every single page, yet it felt too long. And I feel like I'm kind of being a bit of a bitch, because like I love getting to get every single page, but also I want less of it, and I know that doesn't make any sense. So I think maybe a way that could be rectified is, and I know this would throw off the pacing of what Kay was attempting to do, but one of the nice things about every other book that I have read by Kay O'Neill is that they are a lot bigger. Let me grab the Tea Dragon Society. So this is the hardcover of the Tea Dragon Society, and even the paperback though still like comes up to here, and it's like still quite large. So you can see it's like almost like twice the size. It's like 1.5 times the size. And that is really nice for a couple reasons. So one, you just are able to fit so much onto each page, but also the illustrations are a lot bigger, and you get to really like bask and enjoy each of the beautiful little details in here, because they're so much larger. So I think that's something that I wish they would have done with this, because I think even if it was the same amount of pages or just like a tiny bit less pages, but like sized up like these ones are, I think it would have been a more enjoyable reading experience for me. And I think maybe that's where like the 0.5 star is knocked off, is that it just like felt a little bit too long, and also I wish it was bigger because I just wasn't able to see all the details that I wanted to. So I still incredibly highly recommend it. I still need to read this one. I'm going to get to it later this week, but I've read the Tea Dragon Society, the Tea Dragon Festival, Princess Ever After, Dewdrop, and Aquacorn Cove, and all of those I have really, really loved and enjoyed, and I'm sure I will love this one as well. So Kay O'Neill is definitely like solidified as one of my favorite authors of all time. 4.5 stars, super duper enjoyed this, and I would say like it's probably my third favorite book by Kay O'Neill that I've read. It was just so delightful and wholesome. Go pick it up. And then the final book that I have finished today is Upright Women Wanted by Sarah Gailey. This is a book that I started while I was at work today, and I ended up finishing it just a little bit before starting to film this. It is currently 10:40 at night, so I took a while to get through it just because I was busy at work, and then Christopher and I spent some time together, and then I was finally able to sit down. I've been cross-stitching and finished listening to this, and oh my goodness, I fucking loved this so much. So basically we're following this woman who ends up, her best friend and somebody that she had like romantic feelings for, ends up getting caught. We're in this like dystopian Western society. Her best friend ends up getting caught with like unapproved material, like reading material, and gets hung like right in front of our main character. So she ends up running away from town, stowing away in the traveling like librarian's cart. They travel from like outpost to outpost to give them approved material, and she ends up maybe discovering that the librarians are not who she thought they were, and just every second of this absolutely loved, completely inhaled it, was so captivated, loved all the characters, it was so dynamic, just like everything about this just perfectly hit everything for me. Loved it so much. 5 stars. Definitely a new favorite book, and I thought that this might be my favorite Sarah Gailey book out of the ones that I've read. So this was my 4th book by Sarah Gailey, and I was like really, really hoping this would be my new favorite, because the Sarah Gailey books that I've read in the past are like 3 to 4 star range for me, although I do think upon repeat reads that they might go up in my like love for them, because I think that Sarah is like a very like nuanced writer in a lot of ways. And when I initially read, it's actually right here, when I initially read Rivers of Teeth by Sarah Gailey a few years ago, I just don't think I was as nuanced, so I think some of the stuff kind of maybe glossed over me. So this is a book that I definitely want to reread in the next like year or so, and the sequel, and I think I'll get a lot more out of them than what I did when I read them initially. But this is my new favorite Sarah Gailey. Loved it so much. I'm going to be reading another book by Sarah later this week, but I don't know how that one could top this one. I know they're very, very different. That one's like a magic school or something like that, but this, it was just like everything I could have wished for and more. The only book that I am currently reading is Phantom and Rook by Elena Isaacs, and I am 6 hours through this. It is a 14-hour audiobook, I believe, so I'm almost halfway. And while I am enjoying it, it's just slow, and I definitely have been in the mood for more action-packed things. I feel like most of the things that I've read this week have been pretty quick and action-packed, except like besides Waiting for the Flood. So either quick or action-packed, I should say, because while The Moth Keeper wasn't particularly action-packed, it was a fast read because it was a graphic novel. But the other 2 books that I finished this week, which were Fina and Upright Women Wanted, were just so like fast and punchy and engaging. I think this is a lot more what I'm currently in the mood for, so I think that's where I'm struggling maybe a little bit with Phantom and Rook. So I'm still gonna keep reading it. I'm gonna give it like a few more hours and see if it's something that I want to continue with. It's kind of like on the cusp of what I deem to be a reasonable length for a book to be. I feel like once you get to the 15-hour mark for an audiobook, it's just hard for me to maintain attention enough, like long enough on that, and it's 14 hours long. So it is really pushing my limits, and I think that's maybe another thing that I'm struggling with it. But like I said, I'm gonna keep giving it a try. And the author warns you, like in the author note, he's like, this is some like slow burn, like pining, all this stuff, which sometimes I am totally in the mood for, and I don't know that I am this week. So anyway, we'll see. Maybe it will be a softy enough, maybe it will be a firm DNF. I'm not certain. Or maybe I will end up, like I said, sometimes I take breaks from books, like for a day or two, and then I come back to it and I read the whole thing in like an instant. So maybe that will happen. But for now, I have gotten 10 things off of my list. I've DNF'd 4 books and completed 6. I have 4 new 5-star, like all-time favorite books that I will be rereading forever, and I just freaking loved so much. I have a 4.5 star and a 4 star, so just like a totally brilliant last 3 reading days. And stay tuned for my next vlog where I will be sharing hopefully many more new favorite books. And then the final thing is to update you on like how many hours I spent. Currently I am at $28 that I'm going to be donating to the Trans Youth Equality Foundation. 24 of those dollars comes from time that I spent listening to audiobooks, and then the other $4 are for me physically reading a graphic novel for a half hour for each of those dollars. So that makes $28 because I read for 2 hours or 4 half hours. I hope that made sense, but $28, which I'm pretty happy about. It's not quite 30. I was hoping to hit like the 10 every day. So not 30, but 28 is like pretty freaking darn close. And considering that I worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I work Thursday and Saturday as well. So hopefully on Friday, Sunday, and Monday, I will get a little bit more and we'll be able to push it up and we will get to 100 hours and $100. So thank you so much if you are matching my donations. Yeah, that's the breakdown, is that I'm currently at 28. So whatever you're donating, I super duper appreciate it. You all are so wonderful. Thank you for supporting me and supporting trans rights. And I will see you in my next reading vlog. Bye everyone.